This is Trade Planning with the askSlim team. We're going to take you from our analysis to the trade idea. We essentially look at a very unique combination of trading tools in order to bring you that analysis. I'm going to bring you Alibaba alongside trade with a short-term outlook. So it's a short-term trade. RV is going to look at Airbnb. He's got a long-side trade there. And Matt is going to look at Pepsi alongside trade there, but Matt's taking a little more of an intermediate term outlook when he looks at that. So let's take a look here. I'm going to be the first one to go at the Alibaba chart. So this is a very interesting chart right over here. Because you could see on the left is the weekly cycle analysis, on the right is the daily cycle analysis. And when I created the cycle analysis workshop, which you can take a look at for free, you can get see a little video on that if you go to our front page to the workshops, and you'll get an idea of what that workshop is about. Well, when I did the workshop, I thought it was important to do a module that says how the individual cycles create the chart patterns. And this is really important to look at as we look at the weekly chart first in Alibaba. So you can see in there an inverted head and shoulders that's forming. And what typically happens is that inverted head and shoulders forms with the head at a cycle trough. In other words, where there are two cycles coming down, a minor and a dominant cycle. That's often where the head forms. What happens is the minor cycle here gives you a negatively configured cycle, which you see right over here. Then the next cycle over here gives you a positively configured cycle, as you see right over here. That's just forming. Now, that has a tremendous amount of meaning for us because it says this cycle right over here, which was made a lower low, negatively configured, was affected by the downward force from the dominant cycle. If you look at the dominant cycle over here, that is now creating an upward force, proven by the shape of this cycle, a positive configuration. What that says is that once this little correction is over with, the right shoulder gets formed, and then you move into this rising phase right over here, joining the rising phase from the dominant cycle. And then what happens? You get upward movement right in here that will look something like this as we have drawn in here. And that's why we have these upward targets that we have right there. But it needs to get over the neckline right over here. There's the inverted head and shoulders neckline that completes the pattern. That proves to us that we're in the next rising phase with our upward target, very minimal over here at 80.30, but I really think more like 84.5 to about 88.5. 89 is really where that is, and this is the inverted head and shoulders measured move. Let's look at this on the side by side here, and you could see how that inverted head and shoulders forms here on the daily chart right there. Oops, the computer is a little slow. It just jammed up. Let's just wait a second for this to clear up. What's going on here? We got a little bit too much going on this chart right now. Wow. Okay, so that slowed down. Anyway, you can see the inverted head and shoulders right in there, as it's not going to update for me right now. And what that tells me is that this cycle right over here made the bottom. This cycle over here is just getting into support, and that is likely to get the market to move to the upside. So upside target into these areas over here, over 80, maybe 84.5, seems very reasonable to me. So that is a look at BABA.
Let's go ahead and jump over to my screen and we will pull up Airbnb as Slim just said. Okay, so Airbnb has been on obviously just a monstrous run higher. What I want to do is just pull up the weekly chart. So what I like about this, first off, is that these are really clear 24-bar cycles. Keep in mind, this is just the average length of these key cycles, which are measured from low to low. The actual lengths will vary by a little bit versus that average length. So right now, what's interesting here is, yes, we saw, if we go back, you can see we opened right around 140-ish. We rallied, sold off, kept making lower cycle highs, lower cycle lows, and then a change happened off of this higher cycle high and higher cycle low. And then what happened after that? We formed another higher cycle high, higher cycle low. And look what's happening here. We're forming a much higher cycle high and in all likelihood, a also higher cycle low. We have a low that is due here 4.8 to right around 527. So right now, this is acting very well. Overall, we are looking for a bit higher, then for this to put in a higher low and hold around here from right around 156 to 148 or so is what I would be looking for here. And then for this to turn up and make another new swing high in that next rising phase, which goes out into the summer. So a very positive core pattern here going on the intermediate term in Airbnb. If we shift over to the daily chart, what I want to highlight is, I always look back at every stock I'm looking at and understand where did we come from. We came from this key low that formed on the weekly, formed here as a higher low basing cycle. And after that, you can see a series of higher cycle highs and higher cycle lows. Bullish action clearly still in place in Airbnb with this rising trend that is also firmly in place. So what are we looking to do? Basically, any small dip here, we are looking for it to hold this zone right here from 164.77 to 161.47. If it loses this low here at 160.16, then this would be a loser. And we're looking for a move up towards this zone here from 172.88 to 175.88. So that is our overall look at Airbnb and an overall really strong pattern that is still in place on both the weekly and the daily. And I'm going to hand this off to you, Matt.
We should see Pepsi up in weekly
Yep.
chart. Okay, great. So as Slim mentioned in my segment here, I'm going to review Pepsi. I'm looking at a long side bias within a 4 to 6 week-ish outlook period, so the intermediate time frame. So what we're going to do is we're going to step through how the askSlim methodology can answer those key core trade planning questions that we talk about all the time. Those include what's my outlook period, what's my directional bias, what are the key levels, projections, and including reevaluation levels that suggest that I need to reevaluate my overall analysis or take some of that trade off or exit it completely. And then once you've done that analysis and you've come to some of the evidence, does it show you that you have a clear and tradable edge? Once you have your edge, then you want to be able to determine what your signals are going to be so that trade setup is a go and you have no hesitation or reservation. Your money management rules are in place and you execute. Okay, so let's look at Pepsi here. What I'm looking at here is I'm focused on this current cycle that we have. And in this current cycle, we have a nice rising phase that has started. And this rising phase is really important because we're only in the third week of this rising phase, and some important levels have been taken out, and therefore there's been some repair that's happened. And you'll see this more clearly on the daily chart. So we're in this new rising phase. We've pushed through that 78.6 here, the 78.6 fib, which is a key number for us in terms of this rising phase, suggesting that there is a warning of this cycle, this new cycle, shifting to a bullish or positive cycle structure here. And since we are in this early rising phase, that should give us a good amount of time for Pepsi to make another move on the upside. Now I'm going to drill down here into the daily chart as well to see if it's supporting the overall bullish positive thesis. And as we can see here, I'm again looking at this new cycle that started. Although it started with a negatively configured cycle, it quickly has gained traction on the upside and repaired that technical damage that was done, converting this negative cycle structure into now warning of a positive cycle structure. Now we have a little bit more room on the upside. It needs to go to really break out above that prior cycle peak, which would confirm that we have a positive cycle structure and that this prior low here that we saw on the weekly is very important, likely setting into motion a multi-month move to the upside. So in terms of, again, that the look on the daily that's supporting the overall bullish or positive thesis, we have that repair that has been done through that 78.6. We have bullish momentum, positive momentum, both on the reversal scout and our slim ribbon. Now, what does that mean? That means that what I'm looking for in terms of projection over this intermediate time frame is for it to get up in through this major 50% fib that comes off of this 196.88 all-time high here in Pepsi. And that is the retracement that we would see. So if I do this draw here, if the system can hold up right around here, you'll see there's some key levels that pop up for me. So we have a 50% fib here, which it tried to get to in this prior cycle and then was rejected. That formed that cycle peak. And I'm looking to see it get through there and then up into this projection zone number 1, which is, I'm now going to use the fib extension tool since I have 3 anchor points from our swing low, swing high analysis here. I'm using this key swing low here. Then we have our cycle peak here. And then we also have the new cycle low here. And that projection, first we have a 61.8, but I think we'll get through that based on the overall positive cycle structure, warnings that we have, the time that we have still in the intermediate cycle that we have, and get us into this projection zone number 1, which is 176.40 to about 178.40. And then if it really can clear this prior cycle peak, then I think it has enough overall positive energy to get it up near that 181, which would be near that the 61.8 of the major retracement that we had here. And then also there's a confluence with 100% fib extension from this swing low, swing high, swing low analysis that was done. So that's the overall perspective on Pepsi. Back to you, Slim.
All right, absolutely great work by the team. You got a great idea of how we approach things. Interesting, Matt, on that analysis that you showed of Pepsi. You know, there's we've been through a period where all that money is pouring into techs and AI, and normally what happens is that when they get overvalued, the money starts to come out of those, and then it'll start looking for value. And I think you highlighted here in Pepsi that the money is already starting to do that because it's a super bullish pattern on Pepsi for the intermediate term. And that's really about rotation or money flows changing around. That's really great. That shows the great value of the work that we do as things just all of a sudden start to show themselves as to where the money's about to start moving to. So great work on that. And I thought great work by the whole team. So I hope everybody learned some things as you looked at that.